Today's show is brought to you by two of our favorite organizations, the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh and the Allegheny County Library Association. September marks 10 years of their joint program, Love Your Library. It's really a county-wide celebration where your donation during the month of September will be partially matched and helps keep essential services going. So everything from books and materials to facility improvements and programs for all. If you use the library system, show your love and donate now at loveyourlibrary.org. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, a very old funicular, an Incline, crashed in another country, and a shocking number of y'all were in my DMs asking whether it could happen here in Pittsburgh. We are sharing what we know. It is almost time for new COVID and flu vaccines, and gosh, that has suddenly gotten very complicated. And we are sharing our aspirational ideas for where to celebrate or remember an elder this weekend in honor of Grandparents' Day. I'm with CityCast's Mallory Falk and Sophia Lowe talking about some of the biggest stories of the week. It's Friday, September 5th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Hey, y'all, we've made it to the end of the week. It felt like a quick one. I mean, I guess the not 4 day workday part helps.
Yeah, because we were off for Labor Day. If you marched in the big parade downtown, I hope you had a blast. It is always so packed.
Yeah, no kidding. But we've had a big week in terms of news stuff, too. So on Tuesday, we did our guide to September. I love this episode because there's always so much inspiration for stuff to do all month.
And then on Wednesday, we covered some very important sports-related news, specifically whether the Steelers actually do better when they play the Styx song Renegade at the stadium. Researchers did the math on this, so there is actually data backing up whether or not this is just a superstition or a certified fact.
I hope that was really fun for the researchers.
Yeah, and I humbly fall on my own sword here just because, like, this was born because I was so cocky in a bar all those months ago. I'll let y'all listen and find out whether I won my bet or not.
And then on Thursday, we talked fall festivals. We are just starting the season with apples and pumpkins. There will be more to come later. We will get deep into spooky season, although we did a little preview of that too.
And actually, a fun fact. So if you listen to Thursday's episode about the fall festivals, it started with Francesca and I, our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter editor, talking about Oktoberfest and like laughing that we don't know why it's celebrated in September. And of course, our trivia master, Kevin Gavin, knew the answer like off the cuff and texted to us this morning. So years ago, he interviewed the German American National Congress, somebody from there in Pittsburgh. They were talking about Oktoberfest. They said it had its beginning at a royal wedding celebration in the early 1800s and became a festival, like this annual event, but people complained about it. This is in Germany because it was outdoors in October and it was damp and chilly and nobody wanted to be a part of that. So sometime at some point in the 1800s, Oktoberfest began in mid-September and would carry through to October because there was like more daylight, you could like party longer, and it made people happier.
And once you're already drunk, you can deal with the cold.
Yeah. Nobody cares. And like, it's just like sunnier and nicer. And like, our weather's not that different actually from Germany. So I think that's like really funny that like 200 years ago, we're still the same people.
Just griping about the cold.
Griping about the cold, the darkness. We want to drink in daylight, darn it. We'll turn now to some stuff that's happened this week. So we just behind the curtain a little bit. We record our roundup shows on Thursday, and I woke up this morning to so many people asking me whether something horrible that happened in Europe could happen here in Pittsburgh. So I figured this might be a good opportunity for an extremely Pittsburgh edition of Can This Disaster Happen Here?
So in case you missed this news, there was this really tragic funicular crash in Lisbon. As of this recording, it's killed more than a dozen people.
I mean, Mallory, when I saw my phone lighting up this morning, I mean, you're honestly the first person I thought of because you were just in Portugal.
Yeah, I was just in Lisbon on a very belated honeymoon that was supposed to happen during the peak of COVID. And Yeah, the thing that actually really struck me about Lisbon was the topography there. I kept saying, like, I'm never going to call Pittsburgh hilly again because the hills there really put us to shame.
I don't believe you.
I can't go then.
They were very intense. We had to have our child in a hiking backpack the whole time because like strollers were no match for those hills.
Oh.
But it makes sense then that, Pittsburgh is really one of the only cities in the country that still has like a functional funicular system. Here, of course, we call them inclines. And so it makes sense that that's also a mode of transportation in Lisbon.
Did you ride them there?
We didn't take the funiculars. We did ride some streetcars, which I commented on how talented the drivers have to be navigating these incredibly steep streets in these kind of old-timey vehicles. But no, I did not ride the funicular that ultimately crashed.
Well, we're grateful for that. But today we just kind of wanted to go through like some of the comparison points. Like not all incline systems are the same. Lisbon is not Pittsburgh. They are not identical in any way. We don't want to say that. But like if you're hearing or seeing this international news and you're like, but we have one of those. What are my
has closed a lot too.
What's my risk assessment here? That's what we're going to run through today.
Yeah, and of course we've actually got two of those that are still operational.
We have two.
The Monongahela and the Duquesne. And yeah, I feel like it's always a little weird after a tragedy to immediately turn it to like, what about me? But there are a lot of similarities between the funicular system there and the incline system here. I didn't actually realize that this is like the defining characteristic of all funiculars is that you have this system where one car goes up and another goes down and they counterbalance each other. They're connected by a cable.
I have absorbed so much incline information over the last, dozen years I've lived here. I did not know that. Mallory, this is brand new information right now. I kind of thought, I think I was imagining like a Matchbox car situation where like they can kind of do what they want.
We can see them out our office window. I've always noticed one's going up and one's going down.
I mean, same, but I didn't realize that was like on purpose
or like defining
precisely timed.
Well, I thought it was just to have kind of a cute moment where people can wave to each other from the cars as they pass. But it's actually, there's like physics behind it. And also this Elevador da Gloria, the one that crashed in Lisbon, is basically the same age as our inclines here. Ours are actually a smidge older.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah. So the funicular there opened in 1885. The Monongahela incline opened in 1870, and the Duquesne incline opened in 1877. So these are all, vehicles or modes of transit that have been around for like 140, 150-ish years. And actually, the Monongahela incline here is the oldest continually operating funicular in the country. Hat tip to Ryan Dito. I learned this in a deep dive that he did on our incline system.
I feel like that factoid is also at the bottom of like every press release about their repairs, I'm glad he included it, but I think it's really funny that like they're always like, they always put that as like the final paragraph. Like, to me, the subtext is, if you are annoyed by continual repairs on the system, keep in mind it's old.
Although the Duquesne incline is pretty old too, and I don't think it's had quite the issues that the Monongahela has.
Correct. Not recently.
But yeah, but a difference here between ours and the one in Lisbon is, unlike ours, that one actually operates on a street, like a cobblestone street in the city. And it sounds like it basically lost control, sped down that street, and then derailed and hit a building. There's speculation right now that a cable snapped maybe, or the brakes failed. But at least as of this recording, the investigation isn't even 24 hours old, so we don't yet know what happened.
But Pittsburghers have a lot of concerns, it sounds like.
Yeah, and Megan, I know you actually took those concerns and some questions to Pittsburgh Regional Transit.
Yes, I think I was in their inbox before 8 a.m. I normally would text, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that early in the morning. Anyway, not surprisingly, Pittsburgh Regional Transit declined to comment on an investigation happening in another country. But they did say they'd reach out to us when the investigation is complete if it turns out there are any unsettling complications or it leads them to change their system in any way. I'm extrapolating some of that. That's my phrasing, not theirs. But so according to the PRT website, our inclines get inspected anytime there's maintenance, rehab, repair work, anything like that. And like you said, considering how often these 150-year-old trains need a new part, that can be pretty often. I did ask for clarity about how often they do that, like if there's like a routine or a regularity thing. crickets. No one responded to me. But, you might remember there were a ton of closures, particularly on the Mon Incline in 2024.
Yeah, after like a big renovation project.
Yeah, there was rehab. And then there's also like they find stuff that's like wrong or like not operating the way it's supposed to. And sometimes there's just like a full on failure, not in a catastrophic way, in a it just doesn't move today way. And anytime there's like a full blown closure, it seems like from what I'm reading that the state also steps in and does its own inspection. So separate from PRT.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But any of this work, like no matter what it is it's always very expensive. Sometimes it is many millions of dollars. The way it was described to me once is like, even like with the big rehabilitation projects, like they go in and they study and they know what's in here. But like some of these parts on these machines are 100 years old and some of them are one single year old, and getting them to play nice together and like having them made at all is so complicated because like these aren't like modes of transit that anyone's really doing anymore. So like sometimes they have to be specially ordered and made, and like getting craftspeople to then be able to like install them. Anyway, it's just like it's a lot to deal with. And sometimes even like the big rehabilitation projects, like I think this is what happened last year, is that like they get in there, they know about all this stuff, they put it all in, everything's great. And then they're like, oh, this one other part doesn't play nice with all this new stuff. Okay, now we got to fix that too. So,
well, what about our cables then? If that was the problem in Lisbon, are the cables
Allegedly,
looking good for us?
We don't know for sure what the problem
True.
is at this point.
Yeah. To your point, Mallory, about that speculation, the safety cable in Pittsburgh, according to some recent reporting, I think WTAE is maybe the place where I've seen it most recently, but I've seen this number quoted a few times. We replace that every 6 to 8 years, but the timeline is always like determined by testing and inspections and stuff like that. So kind of depends.
Okay. I'm glad they're replacing it regularly, though.
Right. And for what it's worth, I mean, our cars are also a lot smaller, it sounds like, than the Lisbon ones. Like, I think I read in the New York Times story that they can hold up to 40 people, which is why this one is so deadly and there's so many injuries, because there are just a lot more bodies on board. But like, for example, the capacity here in Pittsburgh, the Mon Incline is rated for 23 people and the Duquesne Incline can hold 18. Although one caveat to all of this, some of my information is coming from the websites for both inclines. And y'all, these might give the SEA, the Sports and Exhibition Authority, a run for their money in terms of the oldest, least functional websites in the city of Pittsburgh.
They match the inclines.
I feel like it's more forgivable for an old-timey attraction that's been around for more than 100 years. Like, I can forgive an ancient website for an ancient mode of transit.
Heard. The Mon Inclines is better. It at least like, it's like that. It's like kitschy and like kind of what you'd expect. The Duquesne Incline, for whatever reason, is so much worse. Like Netscape would be an improvement on this thing.
Oh, I didn't realize they had different websites.
I don't know why they do.
Weird.
I mean, I know that PRT owns both of the inclines, but a separate group operates the Duquesne Incline. I'm not sure within that, like, who's responsible for the websites, but maybe that explains the difference.
I mean, I would think, like, since PRT owns them both, like, why wouldn't it just be folded into the PRT website? I don't know. Anyway, a question for another day.
Because it's less charming that way.
So, final answer, can this disaster happen here? I guess there's no way to know until this investigation comes out from Lisbon, but it seems like maybe when we find out more, we'll let y'all know.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears now and move on to our weekly trivia segment.
Trivia!
This week's question, as usual, is brought to us by Quizmaster Kevin Gavin. And this Sunday actually marks 7 years since Mac Miller died. He, of course, was the beloved Pittsburgh rapper who was known for dropping local references into his music, like his debut album was called Blue Slide Park. He honed his musical style in high school here in Pittsburgh. Where did he go to high school?
I know the answer, so I'm going to sit this one out.
I think I do too, so I'll see after the break.
We're throwing you an easy one this week so you can head into the weekend feeling great about yourself, if you are a Mac Miller fan.
Today's show is sponsored in part by Family House. Get ready, Pittsburgh, because their 42nd annual Family House Polo Match is coming our way on Saturday, September 6th at Heartwood Acres. It's presented by F&B, and it's an all-day event with a little something for everyone. So a professional polo match, not a thing you get to see all that often here in Pittsburgh, a vintage car show by the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix, live music, food trucks, tailgating, a silent auction, kids activities, activities. By the way, kids under 12 get in for free and so much more. Come out and support a great cause while enjoying a truly special day. All the proceeds benefit Family House, which is a nonprofit here in our region, providing safe, affordable lodging for patients and caregivers traveling to Pittsburgh for medical care. Do not miss it, September 6th at Heartwood Acres. Tickets and more information are at familyhouse.org/polo. We'll see ya on the field. Mallory, I feel like you put a lot of pressure on people at the end of that, telling everybody it was easy if people don't know.
I said if you are a Mac Miller fan, if you're familiar with his work.
Fair enough. Give him the answer.
So Mac Miller, of course, went to Alderdice.
Which is also where Wiz Khalifa went. His like Taylor gang thing, like that's Taylor Alderdice High School. I love it.
And as always, we've got a ton more trivia up on our website, pittsburgh.citycast.fm. So go play along there. I always learn new stuff about the city when I'm editing this trivia. Kevin is really just like a fount of knowledge.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to move on to something coming up this weekend. It's sort of silly, but thought it might be fun. Sunday, September 7th is Grandparents' Day. This is a holiday that I have only recently become aware of. But we thought it would be fun to like aspirationally talk about where we would take our grandparents, our very persnickety. Like I feel like we were talking about this amongst the office. Like there are very different personalities here in play.
Like your cranky grandma who doesn't like anything.
Yeah, let's start there. Anybody have a cranky grandma? Where would you take them?
Well, I would not describe my grandma as cranky. I was probably the cranky
smart.
one. But on TikTok, I've been seeing a lot of like Tai Chi and Qigong like movements, which reminded me of my grandma because she'd be doing those kind of exercises in the park while I sat on the swings eating donuts. So we can guess who is healthier. So I would like her to walk me through these exercises because like moving my shoulders the past few days has felt so good. So honestly, we'd probably just end up doing this in the park because, you know, my grandma, my mama, she knows her stuff. I'll just copy her. But if this is something that you maybe want to take your grandparents to and get more active, Win-Win in Squirrel Hill has Tai Chi classes, and you can sign up for one for free. So if your grandparents are also, you know, like Pittsburgh cheap, you can make them proud, get a little activity that costs you $0.
Oh, I like that, Rex Sophia. It makes me think of, I always see these Zumba classes happening in Highland Park by the fountain that I also think would be a great like grandparent-grandchild activity. So outdoor fitness in general sounds like a great bet.
What about you, Mallory? Where are you taking your grandparents?
Yes, my dearly departed grandparents. Unfortunately, I can't observe this holiday with any of them this year, but I'm thinking in particular about my like very Jewish grandma. I think this is a rec for anybody who has like an old school grandparent from a culture where they like to talk about like our culture really values education. And so that would be a tour of the nationality rooms at the Cathedral of Learning. So if you're not familiar, in that building, there are a bunch of classrooms that each one is designed to reflect the learning style of a particular country. And they're, you know, decorated in the style of that country. It's really fascinating. They do really phenomenal tours of the space. I've taken many an out-of-town visitor there. So I feel like this is a really great way to show off the city while also learning about how, you know, different countries all over the world approach learning and education.
If you're a Pitt student, you should do this one. Give them a campus tour while you're at it.
Oh, that would be so nice. I'm going to go to one of my grandfathers. He was an avid reader, like literally could like crush 4 paperbacks in a single day. It was wild to watch, but he hated paying full price for a book ever. So I think I would take him on a little mini tour of some of our best used bookstores here in town. He literally would like load up a paper sack, like paper grocery sack full of paperbacks and take it, trade them in, come home with a whole new sack. I loved this routine. I loved the smell of the bookstores. Anyway, I would start at City Books on the north side, in part because it is also across from Wise County Cafe, where they specialize in like biscuits and jams and breakfast foods. And if you give my grandfather bacon with a used bookstore, nothing in the world would make his heart happier.
That's really sweet.
We also got a recommendation from our own Hey Pittsburgh newsletter editor, Francesca DeBecco, about the day she would plan. We're going to play that for you here.
My grandma Rosemary passed away last year, but if she were here for Grandparents' Day, I'd take her to the Western Pennsylvania Sports Museum at the Heinz History Center. She was a huge Pittsburgh sports fan. Like, seriously, she even picked out a black and gold casket. I'd love to relive some of those winning glory days with her and spend some extra time around the section about Forbes Field, because that's where her and my grandpa went on a lot of dates. I think afterwards we'd go shopping in the Strip for some Italian goodies, her favorite capicola and fontanella cheese, and pick up some Enrico biscotti to eat while we drink some coffee and chat about what a good day it was.
I heard black and gold casket, and that's the only thing that stuck with me. That is such dedication to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, can you say fully dead when a casket reference? But still, that made my brain stop.
Well, I have another recommendation. This is thinking about my other grandma who, at least like my memory of her was she was kind of prim and proper, but then sometimes if we were playing a game as a family, like a slightly raunchier side might come out. Like I remember we were playing Taboo once, and in my memory, the card she got was Lorena Bobbitt.
What version of Taboo were you playing?
I know. As I say this, I am questioning my own memory.
Did you make up a card or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did y'all have an
rules?
expansion pack?
That's possible. So her trying to explain like this woman made a mark on me. So my first thought was taking her to visit the Titty Sphinx in Allegheny Cemetery. But then I wondered if it's like not the most appropriate move to take your grandparent to a cemetery at their advanced age.
I mean, I feel like your grandparents have been to cemeteries before.
Yeah, my partner's grandpa recently went back to his like hometown and picked out his grave. So, you know, depending on the grandparent, maybe the perfect afternoon.
I'll take the next one. I have a mama and papa, which I feel like just using that language sets you up with like a picture in your mind, right? They loved a road trip. Like nothing brought them more joy in the world than getting in the car and like just going to see what they can see. So in addition to like, for example, like a Rivers Casino, which I think they would have enjoyed, I would throw it out to like a Lancaster, for example, like out on the other side of Pennsylvania. My papa was a craftsperson. He was a woodworker. And I think like anything where he gets to like look at furniture, like really beautiful furniture, like see a beautiful part of the country, some of the like Amish community and like how they do like woven arts and crafts. It's just so cool. I also think they would have loved Rogers, Ohio, that enormous like multi-block open all year long flea market, like yard sale situation, because those two love to haggle.
Megan, it's funny you mentioned Rivers Casino because when I was graduating college, I told my very Pittsburgh grandma, like, let's have a fun granddaughter day out on the town before I move to New Orleans. Like, pick the one thing you would like to do. And she chose the, at that point, newly constructed Rivers Casino for our granddaughter date. I can't say being there at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday was not a little bit depressing, but, you know, fun memories, I guess.
I mean, my papa smoked too, so I think he would have been right at home there.
I think I was the only one in the building not smoking.
That is often the case.
Well, I'll wrap it up with something aspirational who I hope to be if I'm a grandparent. I want to be the grandparent playing bingo. I love a little game. I love a little theme. And honestly, I do actually just want to check out more bingos around Pittsburgh right now at my age. Like, I know there's drag bingo at Trace and Bloomfield, as well as Space Bar downtown, and Aslan Beer in the Strip District. And then, obviously, fire halls are a pretty popular place for bingo. Reddit had a couple recommendations, like the Westview Banquet Hall and checking out the fire department in Castle Shannon. But if you have a recommendation for the best place to play bingo in Pittsburgh, please call our bingo hotline. It is 412-212-8893. Megan, I think it was you. You said a lot of people in Pittsburgh are Googling where to play bingo. So, you know, I guess it's what the people need to know.
This was a shocking development for me. I was poking around our Google Trends data the other day, and this is like one of the most Googled questions in Pittsburgh. Who are all of y'all playing bingo? I want to know. It is time for our neighbor shout outs, our CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors. That's our membership program. We're so excited to have y'all, and we love hearing what y'all recommend.
Totally. Today we are bringing you a shout out from Annie S. Annie is shouting out Refusilo Winery in Allegheny West. Annie says they have, quote, great wine, knowledgeable staff, cute back patio.
Can confirm. I love this place. I think Francesca said she just picked up a bottle too. Like these are the kind of folks that you can order a glass and chill and not be bothered, or you can like saddle up to the bartender and in no time you are literally looking at their family scrapbook of photos of the farm and they're telling you about like how the wine was grown. You can really choose your own adventure. I just love hanging out there.
That's really fun. Also, the owner of this winery was one of the main people quoted in a recent public source article about how tariffs are going to affect, the wine market in Pittsburgh. We did a podcast on this. Go ahead and listen, figure out how you can support our small businesses here because, you might not think it, but we are growing in terms of our wine culture here.
Yeah. And I mean, the owner, Dr. Laura, he's just like so lovely. And my whole takeaway from like our podcast we did and everything was just like, go buy local. Like fine wine and good spirits does not need your business the way our local shops do, especially with tariffs now on the table too.
Well, thank you, Annie, for your recommendation. If you have a spot that you would like to promote on our podcast and in our newsletter, a place you want to shout out, you can become a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor and send us that shout out. You can join today at membership.citycast.fm. You will be supporting the work we're doing, ensuring that we're here to give you Pittsburgh hacks and news for years to come. And you'll get to draw attention to your favorite local business, nonprofit, restaurant, wine bar, whatever you love here in the city.
Yeah, and old neighbors, folks who have been with us, who've been supporting us for a while. Send us your recommendations too. We want to hear from everybody.
Seasoned neighbors.
Tenured, old, whatever you want to be.
Yes, we want to hear from you. I need more places to explore. So moving on to some Pittsburgh wins, losses, just generally things to know. I guess we'll start with one thing to know. RAD Pass is expanding. So this is a program with the Allegheny Regional Asset District, RAD, and the libraries. So you can get free admission into different museums and shows. For example, right now you can get tickets for some of the Carnegie museums, the Mattress Factory. You can see a show with River City Brass. And all you need to do to reserve a ticket is get a library card, and then you can go to the RAD Pass website online and then reserve whatever passes are available. The one caveat is you do typically need an Allegheny County zip code associated with your library card to reserve that pass. So now that they're expanding, you can get a pass online all year round. Previously, I think like the bulk of their freebies were in the summer. But other good news is that they're generally going to have more tickets available for people to reserve, and some new organizations have signed up. One thing I am really looking forward to doing is some crafts at the Pittsburgh Glass Center.
I am excited about this in theory, but I have never successfully gotten my hands on my own RAD Pass ever.
Really?
Neither
Yes.
have I. And when my in-laws were visiting, I specifically set alarms to go off so that I would be on the website the second the passes became available because there's a limited number. And I still couldn't get them. I mean, I was looking at like the probably more popular attractions, but I don't fully believe that this actually exists because it seems impossible to get your hands on.
Okay, I don't really know what y'all are doing wrong because I've never really struggled. The only place I could never really get a RAD Pass to was the National Aviary, but I've gotten them to the zoos multiple times. I've gotten them in like packs of like 2 or 4, so you can take a friend or like family member too.
Nope, never once has this happened for me.
Okay, well, Godspeed. Hopefully the more ticket availability helps the both of you. For what it's worth, when I checked, there were not as many passes available as usual. But
And that's the problem. There's never that many available.
I mean, my theory right now is because everyone's sharing this news, more people are checking it out. But
I hope that everyone who wants one is getting one. I think I'm just like more of a skeptical Sally right now.
and that's okay. But refresh the website. It is radpass.org. There's a button where it says reserve a pass, and then you get a little login page where you need to enter your library barcode. And then it is off to the races. Best of luck. Maybe check again in a couple weeks because I'm assuming people are jumping on them now.
And if you aren't lucky enough to get your hands on the RAD Pass, another fun hack is that, starting very recently, anyone under the age of 18 can get into the Heinz History Center or the Fort Pitt Museum for free. So if you've got kids in your life, you got teens in your life, you are a teen listener, you should definitely check these out.
Okay, we'll move on to a win. Pennsylvania is expanding vaccine access. I'm going to be honest.
This is like a win that's born out of a major loss.
Yeah, I would say expands is mostly because the federal government decided to restrict more.
Yeah, I'll be honest. This news has been bumming me out a little bit. So I kind of like mentally took a step back. So y'all tell me what's going on.
Yeah, so there has been a lot of confusion recently about how to get COVID vaccines, who is even eligible for the next round. The FDA, just approved the next round, but set restrictions so that it's only for seniors and people with underlying health conditions. The CDC's vaccine advisory panel hasn't yet issued a recommendation, and that panel is now full of vaccine skeptics.
Boo.
And actually, I will tap in here because I just saw that, as we're recording this, RFK is speaking about the CDC right now. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah. And I personally know someone who went to a pharmacy this week and was told the guidance is really unclear right now. So we are just not issuing vaccines right now.
Wild.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some headlines about how pharmacies in Pennsylvania aren't offering COVID vaccines yet, or you need a prescription. Basically, all of these hoops and barriers because of that confusion at the federal level. But thankfully, Governor Josh Shapiro has stepped in because states can set their own guidelines. So Governor Shapiro tapped in the State Board of Pharmacy, and this board has voted to expand vaccine access. So we as a state used to only follow recommendations from the CDC, but like you said, Mallory, they haven't issued any guidelines. But now the Board of Pharmacy has decided that Pennsylvania can also consider other health agencies' recommendations. So that includes the American Academy of Pediatrics, because it is also important for kids, to get vaccinated. They're tapping in sources like the American Academy of Family Physicians. So groups like those are in favor of folks getting vaccinated. We can also follow guidelines from the FDA, but you mentioned that there are some restrictions. For what it's worth, those underlying health conditions include things like asthma or even having a sedentary lifestyle.
My understanding is it's anything that puts you at an increased risk of complications from COVID.
So any of us that spend our work days just clickety-clacking on the computer machine?
Yeah, I still think if you need to show proof or something, I'm not sure how pharmacies are handling that. That could still get difficult.
Can I show them where my posture and I look like Gollum and because I sit at a computer all day? Would that count?
Well, you don't need to now because of this change that Pennsylvania made at the state level. There's a pharmacy chain in Pennsylvania where anyone can get vaccinated right now. CVS is giving out COVID vaccines to everyone.
Wait, CVS? I was thinking you meant some little local mom and pop chain.
No.
And it's possible a local little mom and pop chain is as well. I think CVS is who's getting the coverage because they're have
everywhere.
So many customers all over the state.
And I'm assuming that, they probably have the stock in sooner. I'm not sure. I know there have been supply chain issues in the past. I was hoping it would be easier this year, but alas. But anyway, you can literally schedule a vaccine appointment on CVS's website right now. Giant Eagle could not be reached immediately, according to reporting from WSA. But I hope they will follow suit because they have a ton of customers now because of Rite Aid closing. So
I also saw reporting that a Pittsburgh area state rep recently introduced legislation that would require insurers to cover vaccines that were approved before Trump took office, and also cover new vaccines that are recommended by our state Department of Health. So it does seem like there is a lot of effort right now to try to, whatever happens at the federal level, allow Pennsylvania to still protect access to vaccines.
I'm glad y'all said all this because I definitely got a text from CVS yesterday being hey, would you like to schedule? And I ignored it because I always ignore texts like that. And now I see that perhaps I should not. Maybe I need to jump on that immediately. Speaking of which, actually, can I get a flu vaccine? Is that affected by any of this?
Yes, you can still get a flu vaccine. The FDA has not set any new restrictions for that. As a reminder, the CDC recommends annual flu shots for anyone 6 months or older. I always thought that the time to get a flu shot was around Thanksgiving for some reason, but I was reading that September and October, that's really the range when you are recommended to get a shot.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think that it is fully activated and you have great protection at Thanksgiving. So get your flu shot, get your COVID shot, take a sick day, get some soup. That's my plan.
Hope the change in weather doesn't make my voice any worse than it already is.
Yes, fingers crossed.
And then one loss to close out the week. Kraft Heinz is splitting up after 10 years after they merged. We talked about this possibility a few weeks ago when the news popped. It is official now. A reminder, if you don't know, I mean, there's no way you could live here and not be aware of like what Heinz is to this community. But they were founded here in Pittsburgh in 1869. At this point, we do not know a lot about what will happen with both companies. Like all that's being said is that they'll both be publicly traded. But also like I keep seeing like analyst reports about how they both still have like a lot of challenges and they didn't address those. Like instead they're splitting first and then independently going to address challenges. Like one analyst report I was reading in a national outlet was saying like you could have addressed them first and then you would have both been more attractive like as you re-enter the stock market. So anyway, as far as we know, no plans to change the whole dual headquarters situation in Pittsburgh and Chicago. There does seem to be some hope that more Heinz operations could return to Pittsburgh.
Fresher ketchup,
better ranch.
Yeah, like we haven't made the ketchup here in town in a very long time. Like those Heinz smokestacks that you can see on the North Shore, those are loft apartments and condos now. They have been for a long time. But anyway, I'll leave you with this. There were so many quotes about this, especially in like local outlets talking about like having people talk about what ketchup means to them. And I just think it's so funny. But one in particular was from Andy Masick, the director of the Heinz History Center. He said, quote, "We bleed ketchup here in Pittsburgh."
I love it. I really love ketchup. I'm glad I landed here.
That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji, All the Kimonos, and Alexandra Woodward with additional music from epidemicsound.com. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe produces the show. Francesca DeBecco and Natalia Aldana wrote our newsletter this week, and I am your host, Megan Harris. We will be back on Monday with more news from around the city. We hope y'all have a good weekend.
But I was just in Philly with friends who are not from Pennsylvania, and they were like, "Oh, I saw we can pick up wine. There's this store down the street. I think it's called like Fine Spirits or something." And I just laughed that I was with all non-Pennsylvanians who thought it was like a quaint little corner store.